Welcome to another edition of Ask Isaiah. It's your host Isaiah Rhodes, and today we're going to break down potential game twos tonight for the first round of the 2018 NBA playoffs. You have three games tonight. You have New Orleans and Portland. You have Washington and Toronto, and then you have Milwaukee and Boston. Now, for Toronto and Washington, they went down to the wire in the first game, with Toronto really coming on strong in the second half, opening up the game with balanced scoring and some timely shooting from DeMar DeRozan and DeLon Wright, as I mentioned in previous episodes, put on a strong performance off the bench, and that's what really propelled Toronto in the second half. So let's see how John Wall is able to respond in this game two. His shooting wasn't the best in game one, so he'll have to be more efficient. He did get 15 assists to go along with 23 points. But with that said, because he shot horrible from the field, it didn't have a solid flow. But if Bradley Beal is able to get in the flow offensively early, he was 8 of 17, but he went pockets of the game without being aggressive or necessarily having the ball. So if he's able to get in the flow and put some consistent scoring together, Washington should have a chance. But Toronto's home court is something that has worked in their favor for so long this season. It's put them in position to be the number one team in the East, and because of that, they have a chance to really run away with the series. But as they always say, a series doesn't start until the home team loses. And with what Portland had to go through in the first game, an outstanding performance from Anthony Davis, now they're in the unfortunate position to go down 0-2. Damian Lillard should have a much better performance in the second game, knowing his pedigree and knowing how well he plays in high-pressure moments. I doubt he'll shoot as bad as he did in the first game. He and C.J. McCollum both struggled from the field, but that had to do a lot with what New Orleans was able to do in terms of trapping Lillard off of the pick and roll. And when you have a versatile defender like Anthony Davis, who not only is a great defender but a prolific scorer on the other end, it puts New Orleans in position to win games such as these. Alvin Gentry did struggle down the stretch in terms of coaching execution because he let runs go on a little too long and let Anthony Davis get a little too gassed, which in turn took away from New Orleans' offensive efficiency in the latter parts of the first game. But Rondo, as he always does in playoffs, really set the tone and really stemmed the tide and was able to finish the game with 17 assists. Drew Holiday was efficient all the way around, scoring 21 points. He had 7 assists. But his defense is what propelled New Orleans in the end. In the second game, as I mentioned, I expect Damian Lillard and CJ to shoot a lot better. Evan Turner also has to play a lot better as well. He's been put in a position to be a third playmaker for Portland, but he also has to be aggressive as a scorer. And when he opens up those opportunities, that allows the likes of Ed Davis and Al-Farouq Aminu to take pressure off of them in terms of scoring as well. But for the middle game, which was the most eventful game of the weekend, I should say, in terms of overtime playing back and forth, it's the Boston and Milwaukee series. Now, this is game two tonight. Boston and Milwaukee went toe-to-toe in the first game, with Boston coming out on top with key performances from Al Horford, Marcus Morris, Terry Rozier, and others. I think and Jason Tatum as well in his first playoff performance, he had 19 points. But I just think in terms of what Boston has been able to do this season in terms of salvaging their season due to a multitude of injuries, for them to be in this position to battle for a top 2 seed, and they ended up getting the number 2 seed, for them to be able to play as efficient as they do, for them to give and move the basketball as much as they do, that's a testament to Brad Stevens' ability as a coach. He's been able to work so many different lineups and keep everybody involved. And I think because everybody's engaged, they're willing to put forth maximum effort when their time is called. For Milwaukee, their offense isn't the best. They run so much through Giannis Antetokounmpo that they really struggle to get efficient offense when he's trapped. But I believe because he's the most dynamic player in the series, he's always going to have an opportunity to swing a game. In the first game, he put up spectacular numbers, putting up close to 40 points in the game. He had efficient numbers all around, but he didn't get enough help. Chris Middleton did hit a three to send the game into OT, and on top of that, you had some good performances from Malcolm Brogdon and timely baskets from Eric Bledsoe towards the end. But I think for Bledsoe, he has to be a lot more aggressive early. He ended with 9 points. He has to be within the 15 to 18 range to really combat what Boston has in terms of balance. Giannis is going to be the featured scorer. That's always going to be the case. He's going to find his way to 25 to 30 points. But for Giannis, he has to be able to get more help. Middleton put forth a great performance as well as a shooter. But in terms of how he's been able to score, a lot of his baskets come on broken plays, as you can see with the three-point shot at the end of regulation with 0.5 seconds left. But Boston's ability to play defense and move the basketball is what will put them in position to win this game. If Milwaukee is able to steal a game today, it will be because of a prolific performance from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, we have to reference Game 1 in Houston, Minnesota series, Oklahoma City, and Utah as well. Now, Minnesota and Houston came down to the wire with a great performance from James Harden. He scored 44 points. Not only did he score 44 points, but his ability to break down a game in the second half really kept Houston in the lead as Minnesota made a run. And Minnesota made their run with an inactive Karl-Anthony Towns, or should I say a more passive Karl-Anthony Towns. Coach Tom Thibodeau asked that Towns be a lot more aggressive in the second game because he is their primary player. Jimmy Butler is their playmaker, and he's aggressive in terms of scoring, but they need Karl-Anthony Towns if they're going to have a shot in this series. Being an 8 seed, they understand that there is an uphill battle, but matchups do favor Minnesota in a lot of respects, especially inside when you have Taj Gibson, you have Karl-Anthony Towns, and you have Jimmy Butler, who's able to manipulate post games from the mid-range. So they have to utilize their size inside. For Houston, they just have to play a game. Of course, they're gonna rely on shooting, and they only were able to make 10 threes in Game 1. But James Harden made 7 of those, and that is what was able to push them over the top. Of course, you have Chris Paul, who struggled in the first game. He had 6 turnovers, but I believe Chris will have a much better performance in Game 2. And if that is the case, Houston should be in the driver's seat to finish out the series. But when you go on the road, as they say, the series doesn't start till the home team loses, so we got to give Minnesota a shot. For Oklahoma City and Utah, Paul George, who proclaimed himself playoff P in this stage of the season, really came out strong. 13 for 20 from the field. He had 36 points. He had 8 3-pointers, 8 of 11 from the field. And I think that took the pressure off of OKC in terms of their offensive flow. Utah started the game 16-4. I think the adrenaline for OKC, having the home court advantage, the first home game of the series, it really put a lot of pressure on them early. But because of Paul George just played an outstanding game all the way around, really animated in terms of how he was speaking to Joe Ingles. Defensively, he was attacking and breaking up so many traps. Carmelo Anthony was exceptional on the defensive end, getting a multitude of deflections, and Coach Billy Donovan gave him credit for that as well. You have to really look at how Oklahoma City is preparing to make their run in this playoffs. They're going to be dangerous. When you have a top-heavy team like they do, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony, you can match up with any team at this point. But they have to make a lot of adjustments to what Utah will do, because Utah, despite losing the first game, competed at an extremely high level. They're led by rookie Donovan Mitchell, who came out in his first game and did not play scared at all, scored 25 points. And in doing so, he showed that you can run an offense through him. A lot of people have proclaimed that the stage would be too big for him and the Jazz would be overwhelmed. But I believe this 4-5 matchup would probably be the best matchup of this first round because they're so evenly matched. There's different styles. Utah is a great defensive team led by Rudy Gobert. In the first game, he wasn't able to be as effective, but he still altered so many shots. And for Oklahoma City, while they were successful in getting the win in game one, a lot of their shots uh, weren't of the best quality, but because they have stars, they were able to overcome that, and it's masked. And when you have stars that can mask some of your flaws, in the moment it's good, but towards the latter part of series or latter part of the playoff run, they tend to get exposed. So I'm sure Oklahoma City will have to tighten up some things going into game two. With that said, we have to continue to prepare for great action, great intensity. This is the 2018 NBA playoffs. This is Ask Isaiah. Continue to watch, continue to subscribe. And after game two tonight, we will have more recaps and more previews going forward. Continue to watch, continue to subscribe. Ask Isaiah. Over and out.